best of the community also. Really good. Welcome to another edition of Just Phil. I'm Phil Fleischman, and yes, I'm still your host. Today, I have a special guest with me, a good friend of mine, Wendell Gilliard.
I'm glad you said special friend, because I was going to hit you up with that. Yeah, we're friends, and I'm proud that we're friends.
Thank you.
So that doesn't make me very special.
Special to me, man.
I feel the same way about you.
Well, listen, we always sit around and we talk, and today we're actually going to do it in front of the cameras.
Yes.
I know that one of your pet projects right now is the homeless.
Definitely.
And I saw you on TV not too long ago about the homeless. Two articles about it.
Well, ever since I was on city council, and as you well know, I was on city council for 10 years.
You were.
That's always been one of my very important pet peeves. And I always believe at all levels of government, the only way we're going to make a difference when it comes to the homeless population as a whole, we all have to work together.
Yeah, we really don't know how many people are homeless in Charleston because they don't like to be counted.
Well, we do have a count. I mean, and I always tell people, when it comes to homeless population, we get a lot of statistics. You can't never believe in the total amount that was counted in the statistics, because for the most part, through our research many years, we all know that homeless people don't like to be counted. In other words, when they see you coming, they run away, they get lost. Well, pride, ego, it's a lot of things that we found out that's in that, But anyway, in the state of South Carolina, statistic-wise, they claim that there are over 10,000 people that are homeless. Now, Greenville County has the largest homeless population, up around 800. Horry County sits up around 600, and Charleston County sits around 420. Now, those are the people that they counted, mind you, okay?
Dear Lord, 10,000 people in South Carolina they think is homeless.
Oh, yeah. Well, around the whole country is 1.5 million. And that, as to add insult to injury, 100,000, over 100,000 in that population are considered to be veterans, people who have fought for this country. And I've met a lot of homeless veterans here right in Charleston County also.
I'm just shaking my head because it's just, it's terrible.
Here we are, the greatest country in the world. We're the breadbasket of the world. We feed other countries. We help other countries on their feet. But yet, we don't take care of our own. It starts, we have to take care of our own backyard first.
Why don't we take care of our own people?
Well, the people who are in position to make a difference, sad to say, they turn a deaf ear. They don't like to talk about it because it's in their district, and it's a shame, but it's a reality also.
I saw what you had done. You had a nice article on one of the other TV stations about the homeless in Charleston.
Yes.
And then someone watching the episode stood up and said, I want to help.
Showed it, and that's the fine line when you want to help people sometime, because you have those in that population that just don't want to be seen, and we have to respect that. Then you have the other types of people that they don't care. I'm out here, I need help. They make the difference for those who are silent, and they make the difference for the very lives for those who want to stand out and want to be seen. Now, it just so happened when we were visiting one of the tent cities, and that's what I call them, tent cities, because there's a total of 4 of them. Parts in Charleston, parts in North Charleston. Okay, those are the ones that we found, yes. But, we visited these cities, tent cities. This happened back in 2007 when I first started doing my in-depth research on homelessness as a whole. But I was appalled to find out that here, right in the comfort of our own backyard, we have tent cities. It's just a stone's throw away.
I've never seen that.
Yes.
But I never looked. And that's my problem. I need to look better. What can we do for these people? I mean,
There's lots of things we can do. I've implemented, I've tried on a state level as to bring this to the forefront and to keep it to the forefront. I've introduced legislations that would help the homeless population as a whole here in the state of South Carolina. Now, one of my main issues is the fact that when we were doing research, we found out that a lot of homeless people, they just don't know where to, how to, or where to go seek help. Whether it's for food, whether it's for the quality of life, whether it's for medical treatment, etc. What we wanted to do, in one of the bills that I introduced, it would implement the fact of all law enforcement, starting with our state troopers, of course, that they would be provided with a booklet. Because our law enforcement is always the first contact that comes in, come in contact with the homeless population. So instead of incarcerating these people, instead of telling them to move along, why not provide them with important information that would, bring help to them so they can know where to go, when to go. So that's one of the things that came out of our research.
What's coming with that bill?
Well, we now have one of the subcommittees, and hopefully we'll pass that this year before this session ends. Now, what we did just 2 weeks ago, and it's a form of a resolution, it's a concurrent resolution. It just passed the House. In that resolution, we're asking agencies, we're asking neighborhood associations, we're asking churches, civic organizations of all sorts, to do more than what they're doing when it comes to the homeless population as a whole. And I think when that resolution passed, what it did in the House, it put each state representative on notice to his or her county that we need to get out here and sound the alarm. Now, when we passed that resolution in the House, now it moved over to the Senate and it's waiting in the Senate to be approved. Once it's approved in the Senate, we'll go ahead and put it out statewide. Just what I said, we have to we need people to do more, care more, to help us eradicate homelessness as a whole in the state of South Carolina. We just can't have 10,000 people out there that are homeless, and that's the ones that we're counting, And I've done some in-depth research with the Coalition for the Homeless here in the state of South Carolina, and I want to commend them for their research. They did an in-depth research as homelessness is a problem here, not only in the state of South Carolina, but the whole country. So we need to turn this thing around. So they, and I always give credit where credit is due. They did a very intense, in-depth research how to address homelessness as a whole in the state of South Carolina, and I want to commend them for that.
Well, I mean, it's just, I'm sitting here and I'm speechless. I'm literally speechless, and I don't find that very often.
Yes, because it's a rude awakening. And here we are in America. I could take you to a tent city.
Yes. We live in this wonderful city and everything's wonderful. I'm married. I got a wonderful family. Yes. We have families. And then to think about homeless.
Yes.
And they're sitting in 10 cities and parks that I probably walk past, but I've never looked to see.
Yes. Well, it's one tent city that I've been somewhat frequently going to a lot, and I befriend a couple of people out there, and I'll call them by their first name: Don, Kim, and Sam.
Now, is Kim the one that got the job?
She's the one that came forward. And believe me, it was a miracle the way that happened, because just before she came forward, believe it or not, when this church, they saw the tape, and this church stepped forward and actually gave Sam a home and a place to stay first. So he was the first one. And then you had this wonderful young lady that came forward. She's a manager of a local business, very sweet lady. She gave Kim a job and a place to stay. Now we had two people. And like I said, that's only two, but there are many more. And we ought not forget that. But the only way we're going to make a difference, we have to be involved.
I agree. Well, we do have to be involved, and that's the only way we can solve this problem.
Yes.
All right, Wendell, well, listen, the homeless is pretty upsetting to start with, okay? But I know there's another bill that you want to talk about, and I want to talk about it also. It's the helmet law. It's been controversial for years and years.
Yes.
Do we make them wear helmets? Do we not make them wear helmets? Do helmets save lives, or don't they?
You know, I talked to a couple law enforcement when I was doing my research on the helmet bill. You know, and one guy made a very great, I would call a profound statement. He said, you know, Representative Gilliard, in reality, you know, just like seatbelts, you know, it's not guaranteed. You know, we've had fatality with seatbelts, but like he said, it made a difference. Whether you're pro or con, it does make a difference, okay? So that you could take that same analogy and put toward the helmet law, okay?
I agree with you.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, you know, you take an egg, you take an egg, and you just drop it on the floor. Well, if that egg is not sealed or wrapped, what happens? It's going to crack immediately.
Yep.
Okay? Now you take that egg and you put it in a case and put cushion in it. And you can compare that to a helmet.
Right.
Chances are you can take it and throw it to the ground even harder. Sometimes it'll crack, sometimes it won't.
I agree.
So I think the percentage rate would go up as far as safety-wise when we're wearing a helmet. Now, I'm going to tell you something else, too. What I found out years ago, when you look at the fatalities, we did not, back in 2000, let's go back 2000, we did not have as much pedestrians. We did not have as much vehicles on the road like we do now.
Right.
They're more saturated by virtue of development. I think the last time I looked in South Carolina, we had 4 million plus people. Population is on the increase.
Really?
People have to live somewhere. So our highways and our byways are going to come to be congested. It's going to be overcrowded.
Yeah.
So we have to take extreme measures as to save lives. I mean, it's a hands down. Now, when you look at the statistic 10 years ago, you had much less fatalities because there were much less people on the road. Speeded up 14 years.
Okay.
Now you have more vehicles on the road, including motorcycles. You see, so that there are some pros and cons, you know, and that's, you know, rightfully so. I can respect people either way, opinions either way. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I took this position, I also raised my hand to swear that I would protect and serve. Okay, so this bill is all about safety, nothing else. It's about saving lives.
I remember back in the 70s under, I think it was Carter, that they passed the seatbelt law.
Yes.
And forced all the manufacturers to put seatbelts in the cars and lower the speed limits to 55. And you know, everybody complained. I mean, my parents were two of them that complained, just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. But you know, I think that they were right then.
Yes.
It definitely reduced the number of fatalities on the roads. It definitely decreased the amount of fatalities just from bodily injury. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you just think about it, you have a strap that's holding you in. You don't fly through the windshield anymore.
True. True.
It only goes to serve that the motorcycle is going to be the exact same thing.
That's right.
I rode motorcycles for a long time. I always wore a helmet. Mm-hmm. And I had one accident on a motorcycle. After that, my wife said, no more, no more. Mm-hmm. No, I wore my helmet. I had a great big old gash in it, but my noggin was fine. Well, at least that's what they tell me, okay? But no, I mean, if you think about it, if you have a death wish, then, you know, have at it. Go ahead. Don't wear the helmet. Take bugs out of your teeth. Mm-hmm. If that's what you want to do, I respect your right to do that. But I like helmets.
I've gotten emails and letters from doctors, and all of them address the same thing. The fact that this is something that needed to be brought up, something that we should have taken care of a long time ago, because in one letter, one doctor mentioned that you ought to see the injuries that come through my office for people who are not wearing helmets.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. It's just, but here's a question for you. If we can take on our taxes, we can take a deduction for hearing aids, for walkers and canes, for any medical equipment, why can't we take it for a motorcycle?
True. That is so true.
I mean, I know that's an ironic question that there's no answer to because it's just a stupid question.
Yeah.
But the thing is that maybe that's the way they should really look at this.
That's right. Well, you know, and like I said earlier, it's pros and cons. I had one guy, and evidently he was against it. He said, shouldn't you guys be focused on jobs and education? Well, we are. But then what good is it for us to put forth an effort to be focused on those issues when a person is dead? Well, I mean, a person is, paralyzed, unfortunately, and that don't limit them, but it makes that much harder to earn a living. Now, I mean, I'm a realist. Yeah. So we have to save a life to make a life productive. You see, because I understand when we get sidetracked on these bills, and whether it's the photo ID bill, the helmet bill, all sorts of bills, and people, the first thing they'll say, well, what if you guys ought to be focusing on? Then check out history, go on the website, and look at the fact that we are focused on jobs, the quality of life, education.
I mean, think people
that's
understand that they can go onto the website for the state government.
Yes.
And look at the bills that are being offered, being voted on, being acted on.
They can.
It would blow their mind, some of these people. It really would.
It would.
And yet we get stuck on some of the most trivial bills.
Well,
these two that we're talking about are not trivial.
They're not, because I'm glad you brought that point up, because just last year we were in the house just before we dispersed for the year. Right. I can remember of us going back and forth as to alligator hunting. How much alligators we allowed to hunt in certain counties? Deer hunting. What time of night we want. If we want to extend the deer hunting season. To me, that's irrelevant when it comes to things like homelessness. It comes to things like saving lives. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, we go to the extreme sometimes, and I have to respect all my colleagues in their position. But then we have a right to agree and disagree with respect.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yes. Well, Wendell, it's always great to see you around and have you on the show. We'll be right back. 224-6875. 224-6875. This is Phil. PAS Bookkeeping and Tax Prep is open 7 days a week to ensure you get prompt, personalized, and professional service. Call 224-6875. Hi, I'm Phil Fleischman, owner of PAS Bookkeeping and Tax Prep, your affordable accounting alternative. Mention this ad and save 20% off last year's tax prep fees. Call us 224-6875. Hello everybody, I'm Phil, and this is just Phil. Thank you for coming back to the show this week. And we have a familiar guest with us this week, but you haven't met her yet. This is Danielle Fatherson. Danielle, tell everybody what you do.
Hi everyone, again, Danielle Fatherson. I am a ghostwriter, so I love working with advocates, solopreneurs. Those are the entrepreneurs who do everything on their own because they're professionals, and sometimes we don't have a full staff yet. But I also love working with nonprofits and helping them getting their message out using books. So it's a great tool to go ahead and really take the time and explain what you do and how you do it in a way people can embrace it on their own. And from there, people use it as a business card. Sometimes people can follow up with you and go take your services. Go from there.
That was a mouthful. If you haven't figured it out, Danielle is a ghostwriter. She is real. And if you don't know what a ghostwriter is, she writes speeches and books for other people. Normally, we don't get a chance to meet a ghostwriter, or at least one that claims to be a ghostwriter. But Danielle is most definitely one, and I do know some of the work that she's done. You have done, most recently a book called Chiefs, Pawns, and Warriors.
I have.
And Chief, Pawns, and Warriors was written by a firefighter from New York City on 9/11.
Right.
Tell them a little bit about the book.
And I like using this book as an example, talking about what I do, because I don't know anything about what it's like to be a firefighter on September 11th and to be there at ground zero. But the author, Ron Parker, he found me, of course, on the internet. You do enough searching, Googling, you can find what you need. But he had a lot of notes, he has a lot of artifacts, and of course he has his memories, and he took, he spoke with someone before and actually audio recorded all of his memories, all his details, and he really had a passion for sharing the story. So I love talking about, with Mr. Ron Parker's book, Chief, Pawns, and Warriors, because it really helps to explain what it is that I do. It allows me to, because I don't know anything at all about being a firefighter on September 11th, being there and actually being there at ground zero and seeing everything. But I had an opportunity to interview him, get the chance to talk about a lot of the artifacts he has, talk about his memories and what he's done since then. And so we got a chance to really dig into it and share his story. And so as the ghostwriter, I can't write it, I can't make it up, but I help to take his experience, his words, and put it into something on paper that makes sense to other people so we can experience that with him. So that was a great opportunity, and the good thing about his book is that there's a new museum, 9/11 museum, opening up in New York should be in March or April this year, and they're going to feature his book as the only book by a firefighter. So we're really excited to be able to share his story and get his message out.
Now, I also know that you wrote for one of my other guests from several months ago, Mrs. Elmore. And I was reading this book, and I swear, it had to be your book, okay? It was, and I'm interested in all sorts of things. It was a protocol and etiquette book for the Army Corps of Engineers. Was that you?
You would think that I would do a very good job of setting tables properly and knowing where to put the fork and knowing proper titles, but that was the book with the Corps of Engineers was the very first book I ever ghost wrote. It was the most difficult book because I didn't know what a ghostwriter was, but it was me. I tried not to make it sound like me, but don't worry, that's not my persona. I was just doing what I was trained to do.
Now, you wrote that book when you started in 2006, am I correct?
Yes, that was my first experience with ghostwriting. And then think about a ghostwriter, our name isn't on it. So I was hired to do it while I was working with the Corps of Engineers. They get the credit. I just did all the research and the writing, but that's all right.
And you've been doing this for about 2 years on your own, right? As a business.
Yes.
And we've been talking over the past several weeks about unemployment. We've been talking about becoming self-employed, about being self-reliant and self-independent. Well, of course, self and independent are synonymous.
There's plenty other words for it.
That being said, I just made up a new word, I guess. So this is yet another example of something that people could do if they are good at writing, being able to help the reader visualize what's happening. This is yet another job that they could possibly do. But it didn't come easy for you. Now you're from here.
Yes.
You're an Army brat, right?
Yes.
Army brat. But you went to Goose Creek High School.
Yes.
And then you went to Columbia College.
Yes.
Now, this is the Columbia College in Columbia, called Columbia College.
Yes, all women.
Columbia. That's
Right.
in New York. And then you went on to UNC Charlotte for your master's, right?
That's right.
And you are trained to be, oh, wait a minute. Can anybody guess what she's trained to be? No, writer is not the answer. What are you trained to be?
I'm a communication scholar, but specialized teaching public speaking. So the class that everyone always wants to avoid, I was the one that everyone came to.
Now tell me, there was one other book that I know that you're involved. I know there's a lot of books that you're involved with, but there was one more, and it was by a local chef. Am I correct?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I thoroughly enjoy working with Ms. Chef Kimberly Brock Brown. She's an executive pastry chef. She's actually the first, and my last account, the only African-American female executive pastry chef. She's actually an executive chef here in the Charleston area at a local hospital. And she mentioned to me something I didn't really realize. There's a lot of African-American females or minorities in general that go into culinary arts programs, but they're not always graduating and going on to the levels of being an executive chef. At that level, that's when you run the entire kitchen. What everyone does in the kitchen, she's responsible for everything. So if you didn't like the broccoli, come to her.
I know that we're running out of time here today, but if someone is interested in pursuing a career in writing, what do you suggest they do?
That is an excellent question. With starting a career in writing, believe it or not, there's a lot more involved than just knowing where to put the comma, where to put the period. But the best thing to do is to find, believe it or not, there's a little bit more involved. But I highly recommend becoming active in a writing association, getting in touch with other writers, like meetups.com. That's a great place to find writing communities where you can catch up with other writers. There's also writersdigest.com. They have one of these standards for writers. If you want to be a writer, everyone knows that particular website. You go there, you can take classes, you can learn about certifications, you can learn about writing competitions, anything that you want to do, whether you want to publish or you want to be someone who writes articles for magazines. It's a great way to get experience, kind of understand the ins and outs, and there's a lot of scams out there, but Writers Digest does a really good job of helping writers avoid those and figure out what's legitimate and what is not.
We're going to put this on the screen, by the way.
Okay.
But if you have a question, you can just email me. Email address is phil@jpetf.org, and I'll be happy to pass that information on to you. It's time for us to run. I'm so happy that you came back out.
I am too.
Thank you for coming out, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.
This program is produced in conjunction with Just Phil Educational Television Foundation. For more information on this episode, events, and seminars, or to make a donation, please visit us at www.jpetf.org or call 843-224-6875.
We're going to talk about the Bush